Alright, so now we're ready to tackle 1.4.b. And this section is conditional formatting. And what that means is we want to try to make sure that we can change color schemes within our charts to kind of reveal or give us insights to movies. So let's read through the first task. Let's see. Using the movie data set we had before, we have two tasks to complete. I thought this looked familiar. First, use conditional formatting to color code the movie ratings. Bad movies should be more red, while good movies should be more green. Then, recreate the profit function to determine how profitable the movie was from test 1.4.a and color code movies. If a movie made more than $1 billion, make it yellow to indicate it was a golden movie, and if it made less than $1 billion, make it green. Okay? So we're going to do this first one together, and then you're going to be on your own to try to figure out the profit function, and then also to color code it with conditional formatting. So in order to view the ratings, I'm going to highlight all of them first because I need to tell the spreadsheet software exactly what we're working with. And then I'll scroll back up to the top, and I'm going to click on Format, Conditional Formatting. When we look at that, we can now mark everything as single color, but that's not so much what we're looking for. We are looking for a color scale. All right, and then we're going to click on the format rules. We can change whatever these colors are used. Now I'm going to use the red to white to green. That seems pretty good, so we'll click on that. And we noticed that any of the movies that had high ratings got a really solid green color. And then as the ratings declined, like 5.2, that seems to be pretty low. As we keep scrolling through 5.5, we notice they have a much deeper red color to them. So we have this system where it's kind of like changing or showing us how the movies did just based on their colors. All right, so that's the first part. We just want to make sure that we can kind of look at this data and color code it to make it look appropriate. In the section for profit, you're going to be doing something very similar, except you're going to be using single colors with these rules, right? So once you figure out, what your function is going to be, then you can look at all of these rules. And one of them is going to be greater than a billion. And the other one, you're going to make an additional conditional format on top of it. So once I make this first one, let me just make up something really silly. Greater than $1, I can click Done. Nothing will be added to it, but then I can add another rule on top of that to make it appear twice. So I just keep clicking Add Another Rule. And each of these will allow me to custom change how these colors work. All right? Take your time with it. It's literally going through the same step twice, and it's a bit of a learning experience where the training wheels come off and you need to try to figure out this situation on your own on here. All right, so now let me just undo this. Okay, and then we'll go into task number 2. So task number 2, it has weather data from the month of September 2020. Let me zoom out a little bit. There we go. We can see all of the months and it fits just perfect on my screen. So this is September 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. What's our data that we're playing with? Well, we have the average temperature, so 73.6, 76.8. Oh, that's cool. It looked like September started pretty warm. Looking through it, stayed warm, cold day, cold day, cold day, cold day. And that usually happens in the fall as the seasons change. We got a little bit of a bump in temperature here. That happens sometimes as well. But we can use it on a visual scale to see exactly how these change. Same thing for wind speed, and same thing for precipitation, which is the amount of rainfall that we received. So this is the weather data for September 2020. First, use conditional formatting to make it so warmer days show up as more of a red color and colder days show up as more of a blue color. Use a color scale. All right. Then do the same thing with wind speed. Green for slower winds, white for faster winds. Use a color scale. Okay. And then finally, we're going to do this one together. Do the same for precipitation. White for lack of rain and blue for any amount of rain. Use a single color. So if we need help with the first two, those are the color scales that we did on the movie profitability sheet. So we're going to tackle this precipitation one now. So I'm going to highlight all of these boxes for precipitation. And just like before, we're going to go to Format, Conditional Formatting, and we can choose whatever rules we want for this under Single Color. We're going to keep it on the range. I don't know why this one is clicked. I might have it open in another window. Doesn't really matter too much. All right, that's our range. And here's a little teachable moment as well. You know how we use letters to indicate items? If you notice along the top, it hits the letter Z, and then it goes to AA, AB, AC, AD, AE. So if we ever need to acknowledge more cells going to the right, we can double assign letters to them. Kind of like when you count up to 9 and you need to go further, you add another 1 to the left of it, and then you start at 0 again. Same idea on here. All right. Now our format rules, we don't want to format if it's not empty. We want to format it if it's greater than 0. Right? Because looking at this, the instructions, right? Use white for lack of rain. That's already there, so all those zeros are already in white. And blue for any amount of rain. Well, any amount would be greater than 0. So that was our solution for this piece, right? And we can choose the color. I'm going to choose this nice blue right here. That's a little too deep. I'm going to go for a lighter blue, just to give it a little bit of character to it. We can also bold it if we wanted to. And I might as well underline it as well, just to make it look fancy for us to play around with. Right? And we can even change the coloring of the letters, so I could even make those white if we wanted to. Not a huge fan of that, so I'm going to bring it back to black. I click Done, and now, when we look at this chart, we can see exactly the days that it rained, right? Even if it's just a tiny amount of rain, we can look at that and say, oh, those are rainy days, all right? So that's the main goal for our conditional formatting. We just need to be able to make things stand out and look interesting and, you know, stuff like that. So hopefully this was helpful to figure these out. If you have questions, don't be afraid to reach out for help. And of course, as always, you know, take your time and make it a good learning experience, all right? The last thing that we need to work on is how to make charts and visual graphs using spreadsheets. And it's pretty easy, and it can be pretty fun too. But just like anything else, we can go really deep down into the rabbit hole and learn a lot of complicated things, but that's more reserved for an advanced course. So for now, we're just going to learn how to make very simple charts and play around with them until they look halfway decent. All right, so that'll be the end of our spreadsheets chapter after that, and we'll dive into a couple unit projects, and then we'll be ready to move on to the next big thing in our lives. Thanks for watching.